One Piece chapter 1137 is here, and we have gotten a lot more information about the island of Elbaf, a lot more to speculate on, starting with visiting the castle that originally Shamrock and Gunko appeared in when they first arrived in front of the guards, and we find out that the castle the door has been broken, as if someone has tried to escape from the inside. Someone burst through the door from the inside, which is strange to the Straw Hats, but obvious to us readers because we know they appeared, you know, teleportation style inside the castle and then left somehow. Didn't really care about leaving a trace. They weren't really worried about like picking a lock and being sleuthy. They were just like, nah, I don't care. Couldn't care less. We're declaring war on this island anyway. Or maybe the lore of Elbaf has gotten back to them and somehow they already knew that this castle is considered sacred and they don't go into the castle anymore. Nobody except the guards goes there, and so they just kind of thought that no one would notice that part of the door was busted through, but someone did. Roto seems confused. Luffy seems fine with it. He's like, oh, something happened recently, you say? Let's barge in and maybe we'll figure it out. I gotta say, I love the way this castle looks. Invasive plant life, roots and vines that have kind of taken over, taken over a building or a town or just anything. It's one of my favorite settings to read from. If you follow my book channel, you already know this about me, but I love invasive plant life. And this ruins of a castle, this war-torn castle that's been left, that's been abandoned, and you can just see the plant life overtaking it because of its lack of care. It is so beautiful. It's detailed. I love seeing how the vines will wrap around an area and tear through the stone around every corner. I love looking at the insides of this castle, even though I think it's sad. I do think it's sad to just abandon the place. I mean, I'm sure it took a lot to put this castle here. A lot of resources, a lot of labor to put this castle here, and then people are just like, we won't put someone else in here. We'll just let it rot. But we find out that it looks like this because of the scars of the fight. These are the scars of the fight when Loki supposedly attacked his dad. I still do think that he actually did attack his dad. I think that the war is legit. I just think that Loki's motivations behind it and King Harold's motivations behind changing the ways of Elbaf are still up for debate, but I do think that Loki actually did it. Anyway, so this battle is what caused this castle to turn to ruin and caused them to leave it abandoned. Again, sad. More sad is all these soldiers that fell and then were just left. There were many soldiers in the castle. Loki slew over 100 stout warriors that day. The only survivors among the castle were Chief Jural and Loki himself. It was such a shocking and bloody scene that it was agreed that the castle should be sealed and left untouched afterward. Fair enough, but how, does it not feel disrespectful that you didn't even bury the dead? Like, these soldiers that fell defending their king, you're just like, let's leave them there. Let's just let them rot. Like, we know it's part of Elbaf culture to bury your dead. We saw it in the Linlin flashback. Why? These soldiers that fell an honorable death, I'm sure even under new Elbaf standards, they were defending their king. They were trying to defend what the king stood for, which was pacifism, and they were fighting doing it. I get it, but still, it was a war that King Harold himself took part in, seemingly, and all these soldiers died. They were just like, we don't need to bury them. Leave them there, in piles. It's fine. Imagine the stench. Even leaving the swords in them. Just no care. Okay, so then we get some lore on the Oni. Some of the soldiers did actually have horns embedded in their skull as a part of their genetic makeup. And this is where Roto explains that this is a marker of having the blood of ancient giants. So some of these soldiers were ancient giants. There are no longer any more purebloods, but some still have traces in their ancestry. In fact, King Harold himself was a very large and mighty. So King Harold had ancient giant blood in him. We remember Ors. King Harold himself had horns growing out of his skull, and he ripped them out. He was so extreme in his pacifism that having the blood of a warrior race was considered, I assume, shameful to him, and he didn't even like his genetic makeup because it was a reminder of an era of war. Now, this is really interesting to me because what King Harold's goal was, he was the greatest king in history because he wanted to be the bridge between Elbaf and the rest of the world. He wanted to say, we will no longer be warriors, we'll no longer pillage the sea, we'll no longer, you know, they needed to stop that. But he sent them into extreme pacifism for the sake of building this bridge between Elbaf and the rest of the world. Yet, he was perfectly fine, it seems, I'm reading between the lines, with keeping the divide between his own country and other giant races. Now, I'm sure he didn't institute the rule that he couldn't marry Hadrudin. Ah, shucks, I've forgotten how to say his name. His first son's mother. I'm sure he didn't institute the rule that if you don't have Elbaf blood, you can't be Elbaf royalty. So like this blood superiority. I'm sure that rule was already in play long before King Harold became king, but seemingly he didn't, I can't say he didn't try to fight it, but it wasn't overthrown when he was supreme dictator of Elbaf, when he was the king of Elbaf. It didn't get overthrown. And the fact that he ripped part of his skull out, the horns were a piece of his skull, a piece of his genetic makeup. Like, it hurts my head. It gives me a headache to even consider the pain of ripping part of your skull out. He mutilated his own body in order to not look like his bloodline, in order to not look like this bloodline that he considered adjacent to war, or just a reminder of a war era. So if he's that extreme, it wouldn't surprise me if he was super cool with the law, with the rule of no, only Elbaf blood on the throne. Like, if he fell in love with, or just in like with someone of another race, and then had a baby, and then it was like, ah shucks, can't be my queen. Your blood's not good enough. Darn, that pesky rule. Anyway, raise that kid somewhere else. I've been suspect of King Harold for a long time, so my bias is certainly leading the way I'm reading him here, but I also think that he does seem to be, if Oda went this route, it would be a very interesting thing to explore, that King Harold was that he wanted so badly to be the bridge between Elbaf and the rest of the world, that he was willing to dismantle what Elbaf considered their pride. Watch this video to understand what I'm talking about a little bit more, but in short, we learn on Little Garden that being a warrior is the pride of Elbaf, and to not continue the warrior way is to lose your very self. So Harold, why did I tell you to go watch that video? I'm telling you right now. So Harold is, in his desire to be the bridge, he didn't just make it so that they were traitors instead of pillagers. He actually like stripped the whole nation of the thing that they took pride in, which we're told in the story itself that the older generation didn't like. They weren't happy with it. Obviously they fell in line somewhat, but they were not in agreement with this. So if Oda wanted to explore that King Harold was so determined to bridge Elbaf with the rest of the world that he would strip Elbaf of what they consider their pride, but has no desire to have that same bridge between Elbaf and other giant races, I think that's a fascinating thing to explore. And if Oda wants to go there, it could be such a thematically rich arc. We also have a lot of thematic opportunity with Hadrudin and Loki, both of them wanting to be on the throne, both of them probably looking up to sun god Nika. I'm actually not sure that Hadrudin does. Both of them have a relationship with Luffy on some level, And they're brothers, half-brothers, both with at least some Elbaf blood and some right to the throne. So it would be really interesting to see how hopefully their relationship is mended, and through that maybe we could have that bridge that we were talking about, putting Hadrunan on the throne, having Elbaf have a king who is only half Elbaf blood could actually be like the part of what this arc is doing could be creating that bridge that Harold wasn't interested in creating between Elbaf and the other countries. I mean, we even saw when we met Saul way back in Ohara, that Saul not only said, I'm not from Elbaf, but he actually was like, no, I'm not about their brutish ways. So we could take that and assume that it's possible that other giant races also feel the same about Elbaf. Maybe they're not really interested in that bridge either, because Elbaf presents themselves as warriors to the extreme. And so like there might be a lot of friction there that could be bridged, that could be mended through these brothers. Oda's already drawing a connection to humanity and how humans too, like, yeah, we're all humans, but do we not have divides? Do we not fight with each other over land and over resources? Are what the giants doing really that different from what we see in our own lives? So Oda's already drawing these parallels that makes me think that this could potentially be a main theme of this arc by grounding it this early. We'll see what he does with it. All I'm saying is if he does go this route, I'm very interested. We also see that even though Roto potentially buys into some of this, you know, blood hierarchy stuff because he stated it so plainly, and then Zoro asked him, so if his blood is tarnished, why do you ride with his crew? And so we see that it's the relationship that they established when they were kids, when Roto was being bullied and Hadrunan showed him kindness and praised his talents, that actually overrode his ingrained cultural beliefs about blood superiority. So again, if Oda is going to use this as a main theme, then he's already established we're going to tie this into the real world, but then also we're going to establish that relationship and connection can overpower these prejudices, which is a good, you know, starting point for Oda to build on. And of course, to bring this all full circle, Hadrunan's goal, his dream, is to unite giant kind, which is the perfect next king, because King Harold wanted to unite the world, but seemingly didn't care about uniting giant kind, and in fact was really comfortable with the divide, seemingly. And Hadrunan then would come in behind him, and his dream is the thing that his father couldn't get past. His dream is to unite giant kind. He would never rip the horns off of his head. So I think he's for sure gonna sit on the throne. He's gonna be Elbaf's next king. He has a big hurdle though. I mean, he has a big hill to climb, because the fact that Elbaf the nation rejected Loki as the next king, because, you know, he killed his dad, but they decided, because Loki killed his dad, what was it, 14 years ago, and then was just who knows what, raiding the seas, going wild for a while. After he killed his dad, when he was captured, the kingdom, and probably immediately thereafter, the kingdom absolutely rejected him. They were like, no, you are not our next king. You do not get the throne. Reasonably so. But Hadrunan's right there. And supposedly, it seems that they would rather have an empty throne, no ruler, which leaves them very vulnerable. They would rather have an empty throne than to have a half-blood on the throne. I mean, he wants to be king, so one can only assume that he was rejected as well. So he has a big hill to climb, but all the more opportunity for rich themes as he climbs that hill and actually becomes that bridge for giants. Anyway, now let's get to the part that probably you wanted to talk about, but I want to talk about all that. So now let's get to the reveals. So we are in the underworld. We're with Loki, and we're with our celestial dragons trying to win Loki over to their side, really just giving him a empowering speech and wonderful, very persuasive methods by beating him bloody. Again, it really just doesn't seem like Loki is a bad character. I don't think very many of us probably think that he is, but I'm still in the camp of firmly morally gray. But he is outright saying, no, I will not be a celestial dragon. I will not be stooping that low. And Gunko's response to this, is just to beat the guy. Her devil fruit, the arrow fruit, amazing to watch. She can wrap it up to extend her legs so that she's this giant. She has to mark her path when she's going to attack. The arrows show exactly what she's going to do, which one would think would be a vulnerable thing because anyone who isn't blindfolded might see it coming. But she says, those arrows are the confirmed path of my very future, a declaration of unavoidable violence. But it is possible for me to change course. So the way I take that is once the arrows show their path, you can't do anything about it. When she marks that she's going to kick you across the face and then uppercut you, sit back, because you can't move from it. Like, you can't dodge it. It's done. She can change it, but your fate has been decided, which I just think is so interesting, especially in a story of freedom. When you introduce a devil fruit that is in some way deterministic, once it's been decided, it is determined and you can't fight against it. But then we have the embodiment of freedom over here. Like, I'm just so interested to see how that goes. Anyway, I love her fruit. I didn't expect to. I mean, it was interesting. As soon as we saw the arrow, you know, you make the connections to Emu and it's like, okay, so this could be interesting. She's gonna be powerful. But I just think that her devil fruit is interesting. It's cool to watch. Visually, it's awesome to see how it transforms her, either making her taller or her sleeves unraveling while she's using it. Like, she used it as bandages to wrap around one of the guards and bring him to his knees, you know? Like, there's so many cool ways to use it, so I'm just excited to watch her continue to use it so that I continue to see what all it can do. I mean, she walks on the path of the arrow at one point to get to following the line of the arrow with the kick. I just think that that's visually awesome! And I do think that we are going to very quickly, maybe not super quickly because it's Oda, who knows how long it'll take, but I do think that we are for sure going to be meeting up with them because, which I forgot to mention, but when we were in the castle, Luffy did see the bodies of, I assume, the guards that they knocked out when they first arrived, because Luffy was like, hey, look, there's more bodies over here. He didn't say there's more skeletons. So I assume those are the guards that they took down when they first entered the castle. So, you know, they're gonna know that someone's here. They probably won't say, oh look, there's bodies, let's go check the underworld, you know? So it's probably not gonna be soon, but it's gonna happen. I want to see it happen. I love when he's being absolutely brutalized and he's like, stop, enough already, and she goes, then you'll join? And he's like, nah. But Shamrock understands that this method isn't working, we need to change tactics, and this is what T'Seen depicted in her art piece this week. She wanted to show Shamrock because she had an amazing art piece for Shanks a while back, and so now that we can actually see that this is a different character for sure, it's been confirmed, she wanted to do an art piece that was similar, had a similar feel and a similar style to it. Certainly Shamrock is more regal, more polished, really put together, whereas Shanks, he's just doing whatever. But he is confirmed son of Saint Garling, so it does seem that he is probably Shanks's brother, which means that Saint Garling is Shanks's dad. As always, T'Seen is in the description of this video, so please be sure to show her some love. But it does seem that we've all but confirmed that Shanks is a celestial dragon by birth. Clearly he's chosen to leave that life, much like Sabo. Sabo left the life of a noble, which I'm really excited to get more of the backstory of that as well, and I'm really excited to see these brothers actually see each other again and watch the friction that comes with that. Anyway, the chapter ends with him saying, the vicious warriors of Elbaf who conquered the new world long, long ago will be brought under the command of the world government once and for all. So these antagonists are here to stay. They have arrived to get the, to get Loki, who potentially could have the throne, who is clearly the most powerful giant in the land, get him on their side because they want to bring Elbaf to its knees, or at least under their command. And if they can't do it that way, then they're gonna do it by force. Once again, the fact that this this is now a pacifist land, has to come into play here. They're now going to be under attack. Someone is going to try to conquer them in one way or another. So the question is, how do they respond? Especially because they've rejected having a ruler because their ruler's blood wasn't pure enough for them. Well, there could be ruler. Hadrudan. They've rejected having a ruler after their ruler was killed, and they've laid down their swords to the point that they don't even know how to defend themselves anymore, at least the younger generation doesn't. So this leaves them extremely vulnerable. So now when attacks come, what does it look like? I think it looks like Hadrudan and Loki and the Straw Hats defending them, teaching them kind of the balance between being terrors of the sea and so pacifist that they can't even defend themselves, finding a balance there, as well as different types of giants from different areas, from different backgrounds, all fighting under one banner and finding some sort of unity. Oda will do it better than how I've just summarized it, because what I said sounded really simple and cheesy, and Oda will do it better, but I'm excited to watch it happen. Anyway, this chapter was great. I really enjoyed it. I'm getting really, really excited for what Elbaf has to come, and we're not on break, so I will see you next week. But please do chat with me more about this chapter in the comments. What did I not mention that you want to talk about? What did I say that you think is dumb? Please do chat with me more in the comments. I'll see you again soon. Bye.